In the stillness of a crisp, clear night, under the star-studded sky, an ordinary man named Mark found his life taking a most extraordinary turn. As an astronomer, he was accustomed to gazing up at the cosmos, seeking out the mysteries held by the twinkling stars. However, tonight, the cosmos seemed to gaze back at him with intent, as if choosing him for a purpose far beyond his understanding. Mark had just finished a long shift at the observatory and was driving home on a secluded road that cut through dense woodland. The only sounds were the occasional hoot of an owl and the gentle hum of his car's engine. Suddenly, a brilliant light pierced the night sky, descending rapidly towards him. The light was so intense and otherworldly that it didn't just illuminate the surroundings, it seemed to consume them. Before Mark could react, his car lost all power, the engine died, the dashboard lights dimmed, and he coasted to a stop. Stranded in the darkness, with the radiant light now enveloping his car, Mark felt a strange calmness overtake him. It was as if the light itself communicated, soothing him, preparing him for what was to come. Without warning, his body lifted from the driver's seat, drawn irresistibly towards the source of the light above. Mark felt weightless, his feet leaving the ground, his heart racing not with fear, but with an inexplicable excitement. As he ascended into the bright unknown, the forest and the road below diminished into darkness. The next moment, Mark found himself aboard a spacecraft, in a room that hummed with advanced technology. The space was vast and clinically clean, filled with panels of flashing lights and strange instruments. But it wasn't the technology that caught his attention. It was the beings that stood before him. They were unmistakably women, but unlike any women he had ever seen. Tall and imposing, with flawless skin that seemed to glow softly, their eyes shimmered with a silvery luminescence. Their hair flowed like liquid platinum, and their presence exuded a powerful aura of authority and grace. One of them stepped forward. Her voice was melodic yet commanding, echoing through the chamber. "Welcome, Mark. Do not be afraid. You have been chosen for an honor. Our civilization, superior in many ways, lacks one thing: diversity. You have been selected to help us continue our lineage." Mark, still grappling with the shock and awe of his surroundings, managed to ask, "Why me?" The alien woman smiled, a gesture that seemed both enigmatic and reassuring. "Your genetic makeup is ideal for our purposes. You possess qualities that we, despite our advancements, cannot replicate. You will help us bring new strengths to our people." As the reality of his situation dawned on him, Mark realized that he was not just an observer of the stars. He was now a part of their story, entwined in the fate of an alien race. The journey that lay ahead was unknown, daunting, and more extraordinary than anything he had ever imagined. The women led him through the corridors of their ship, explaining their technology, their culture, and what they expected from him. With each step, Mark felt his old life slipping away, replaced by this incredible new reality. As they approached the central chamber, where his new life would begin, the door slid open, revealing a room designed to blend his human needs with their alien technology. Here, in the heart of the ship, surrounded by beings from another world, Mark prepared to embark on his unprecedented mission. The task was monumental, but so were the possibilities, both terrifying and exhilarating. As the alien women explained their plans and prepared him for what was to come, Mark knew his life would never be the same. He was no longer just Mark the astronomer. He was Mark, the interstellar emissary of Earth, chosen to bridge two worlds in the most intimate way imaginable. And so his story began. As the door to the central chamber closed behind him, Mark was struck by the profound silence that enveloped the space. It was a stark contrast to the technological hum that pervaded the rest of the ship. Here the air was still, and a faint otherworldly glow emanated from the walls, casting soft shadows across the floor. He was not alone. Surrounding him were three of the alien women, each more imposing than the last. The lead, whom Mark had started to think of as the emissary, gestured to a sleek, ergonomic chair at the center of the room. It looked less like a piece of furniture and more like an artifact, with contours that suggested it was designed for more than mere seating. "Please sit," the emissary invited, her voice imbued with a serene confidence. This device will help facilitate your integration with our needs. It is painless and will provide you with insights into our society that words alone cannot convey. With a mixture of trepidation and curiosity, Mark complied, settling into the chair. It contoured perfectly to his body, almost as if it was alive, adjusting and responding to his movements. The women encircled him, their hands raised, palms glowing with a pulsating light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with Mark's heartbeat. Suddenly, a cascade of images and sensations flooded Mark's mind. He saw vistas of the alien world, towering structures that defied gravity, landscapes that stretched between extremes of breathtaking beauty and technological marvel, and skies that shimmered with colors unseen on Earth. Interspersed with these were glimpses of the women's history, their triumphs, their struggles, and their advancements in science and art that would leave the greatest human minds in awe. The download of information was intense, yet within the storm of knowledge, Mark felt a connection to these alien beings. They were not just advanced, they were also deeply emotional, with a rich culture that valued both logic and feeling. When the flow of information ceased and the room steadied, the emissary spoke again. "Do you understand now, Mark? Our world, while advanced, faces extinction without renewal. Your role is pivotal." Mark, still processing the wealth of knowledge now embedded in his mind, nodded. "I understand. But what exactly do you need from me?" "Our species reproduces differently from humans," another of the women explained. She introduced herself as Lyra, the ship's geneticist. "We combine genetic material in a lab setting. Your DNA will be merged with selected genes from us, creating new, viable offspring. This method ensures the strengths of both our species are preserved and enhanced." Mark absorbed this, his scientific mind intrigued by the implications. "And the children? Where will they grow up?" "With us," Lyra replied. "They will be taught about both worlds, and in time, if they choose, they can visit Earth." The notion of fathering children who would live among the stars was overwhelming, yet filled Mark with a strange sense of pride and responsibility. He was helping to bridge two civilizations, not through conquest or diplomacy, but through the most basic human connection, reproduction. The preparations began immediately. Mark was guided through their advanced medical facilities where his health was thoroughly checked and his biological material was carefully harvested. The process was clinical, but performed with a respect and solemnity that reassured him. As he was led back to his quarters, a room with comforts tailored to human needs, he reflected on his role in this grand scheme. He was no longer just a participant. He was a cornerstone in the survival of a species. That night, as he lay in a bed that floated gently in the air, Mark looked out the window to the stars. They seemed closer now, not just celestial bodies to be observed, but destinations, each potentially teeming with life as complex and profound as the one he had encountered. The weight of his new reality settled in, not as a burden, but as a profound opportunity. Mark's days began to blend into a tapestry of routine and revelation aboard the alien ship. Each morning, he awoke to the gentle hues of the simulated sunrise, designed to mimic the comforting warmth of Earth's dawn. His meals, tailored to his human biology, but infused with exotic flavors from the alien world, were both nourishing and a continuous adventure for his palate. Lyra and the emissary often joined him, using these shared times for deeper discussions about their cultures and scientific knowledge. Lyra was particularly interested in Earth's biological diversity, often comparing it to the genetic uniformity that her own people struggled against. The emissary, on the other hand, was more focused on the philosophical implications of their joint endeavor. Their conversations often ventured into the nature of consciousness and the potential for their offspring to bridge not just two worlds, but also two ways of understanding existence. Beyond these intellectual exchanges, Mark's integration into the alien society took a more physical form. He was introduced to their technology, which was both intuitive and daunting. The devices responded to touch, thought, and sometimes even the mere presence of an individual. Mark learned to navigate through holographic interfaces that floated in the air, manipulate objects from a distance using only his mind, and even participate in the aliens' version of recreation, which involved complex simulations that challenged both his intellect and agility. One particularly memorable day, time had lost much of its meaning aboard the ship. Mark was taken to what Lyra called the Genesis Chamber. This was the heart of their reproductive technology, a place where life began in its most scientific form. Here, Mark witnessed the creation of life from a fusion of his DNA with that of the aliens. It was a process of extraordinary precision, guided by AI but overseen by the skilled hands of the geneticists. Eggs, fertilized by the combined genetic material, were nurtured in biotic pods that simulated the perfect growth environment. As Lyra guided him through the lab, she explained how each pod was equipped with AI that continuously adjusted the conditions based on the developing embryo's needs, ensuring optimal development. The walls of the chamber were lined with screens displaying real-time genetic sequencing, tweaking and perfecting the offspring's attributes. "This is where your children will begin their lives," Lyra explained, her voice filled with a mixture of pride and scientific fervor. "They will be part of both worlds, carriers of both our hopes." As Mark looked at the glowing pods, a deep sense of responsibility washed over him. These were his children, yet their upbringing and their world would be alien to him. They would grow up among the stars, navigating a society far more advanced than anything on Earth. It made him wonder about their identity struggles, the societal expectations they would face, and the legacy of their very existence. In quieter moments, when he was alone in his quarters staring out into the vastness of space, Mark pondered the future. How would his children view him? Would they consider Earth as part of their heritage or merely a distant concept, as remote and abstract as Mars was to Earth's children? These thoughts were interrupted one evening by an unexpected alert. The ship trembled slightly, a rare occurrence that drew immediate attention. Mark looked out the viewport and saw a bright flare in the distance, a distress signal, he learned, from a neighboring system. The emissary soon arrived at his door. "We are needed," she stated simply. "Our technology and capabilities can assist in many crises. Will you join us, Mark? Witness how we extend our help as you have extended yours?" As they hurried toward the control room, Mark realized that his experience on the ship was more than a scientific mission. It was a deep dive into the ethos of a civilization. As they prepared to navigate toward the distressed system, his role shifted from observer to active participant in their broader cosmic community. This was not just an exploration of genetic legacy, but of universal solidarity. The control room was a hive of activity, as the ship prepared for what the emissary described as a rescue operation. The walls, usually serene with ambient lighting, now flickered with urgent data streams and orbital maps. Mark watched, fascinated, as the crew manipulated the streams with swift, precise movements, their fingers tracing paths through virtual interfaces. "Each of these points represents a ship in distress," the emissary explained, pointing to a cluster of glowing dots on a large holographic display. "A micronova has destabilized the region. We are coordinating with other ships to provide aid." Mark felt the ship accelerate, the stars outside stretching into lines as they entered faster than light travel. The sensation was unlike anything he had experienced on Earth, a smooth leap forward that defied his understanding of physics. The crew seemed unfazed, focused entirely on their tasks. Arriving at the crisis zone, the scene that unfolded was chaotic, yet strangely beautiful. Ships of various designs and sizes were scattered across the region, some drifting aimlessly, their hulls scorched by the micronova's flare. The alien ship's exterior arms extended, deploying a series of drones that buzzed off into space, each tasked with stabilizing a vessel or providing critical repairs. Mark was tasked with monitoring the rescue operations from a secondary console. "Your role is to help us oversee the logistics," Lyra instructed. "The AI will guide you, but your intuition as an outsider might reveal angles we've overlooked." As Mark interacted with the ship's AI, he was impressed by its ability to predict and react to complex scenarios in real time. However, he couldn't shake the feeling of being a novice among experts. Despite this, he soon noticed a pattern the AI had missed. an alignment of disabled ships that could share a single rescue drone due to their proximity and similar damage profiles. "Look here," Mark suggested, pointing out the observation. Lyra examined his analysis, her face lighting up with approval. "Excellent observation, Mark. Your fresh perspective is invaluable." With his guidance, they rerouted the drones, optimizing the rescue efforts. Watching the drones work, Mark felt a surge of pride. He was no longer just a bystander. He was contributing to their mission, bridging not only biological gaps but also participating in their communal efforts to safeguard life, regardless of its origin. As the operation wound down, the rescued crews broadcasted their thanks. The gratitude, expressed in a multitude of languages and through various technological means, was compiled and translated by the AI, then displayed in the control room. Mark watched, moved by the universal expressions of relief and camaraderie. Post-mission, the ship's atmosphere was one of subdued celebration. The crew members, who had been intensely focused, now allowed themselves moments of relief and satisfaction. Mark joined them in the communal area where stories of past rescues were shared. Each story added to his understanding of the vast and varied tapestry of galactic civilization. During these exchanges, Mark learned more about the coalition of systems that work together for mutual safety and prosperity. "It's not just about survival," the emissary explained. "It's about building connections, trust, and understanding across worlds, much like what we hope to achieve with Earth through you." As the ship resumed its course, Mark returned to his quarters, his mind full of the day's events. He realized that his role here was not just to be an emissary of Earth or a biological contributor to a new generation. He was also an integral part of a larger interstellar community, working together to navigate the perils of space. Lying back, he stared out at the cosmos, now a familiar sight yet endlessly mysterious. Each star, each planet held stories of potential friendships, challenges, and adventures. He was, in a very real sense, no longer just of Earth, but a citizen of the galaxy, forging new paths in the vast, starlit frontier. As the ship glided through the cosmos, Mark's understanding deepened not only of the technology and operations of his new companions, but also of the philosophical and ethical dimensions that their society embraced. His daily interactions with the crew led to profound discussions about the principles governing their interventions, and their philosophy of non-interference with less advanced civilizations unless absolutely necessary. One day, while exploring a section of the ship that was dedicated to historical archives, Mark stumbled upon an interactive exhibit showcasing the evolution of the alien society's ethics. It detailed centuries of their interstellar diplomacy and the pivotal moments that had shaped their current doctrines. Mark was particularly drawn to a principle they called the balance of sorrow, which posited that helping those in distress should never come at the expense of causing greater harm or dependency. This principle was put to the test when the ship received a distress call from a nearby planet facing environmental collapse. The planet, inhabited by a sentient species not yet capable of interstellar travel, was experiencing rapid atmospheric degradation. The council aboard the ship convened, and Mark was invited to observe the deliberations. The debate was intense. Some argued for immediate intervention to stabilize the planet's atmosphere and give its inhabitants a chance to survive and eventually rectify the situation on their own. Others cautioned that such an intervention could lead to unforeseen consequences, including cultural or ecological disruptions that could ultimately do more harm than good. Mark listened intently, weighing each argument. When asked for his opinion, he drew on Earth's own history of ecological challenges and interventions, some of which had led to positive outcomes while others had unintended negative impacts. "It's about giving them a chance to survive with minimal interference," he suggested, perhaps a way to offer aid that empowers them without taking over their problems. His input was well received, and eventually, the council decided to deploy an atmospheric regulator in orbit, a device that would temporarily shield the planet from solar radiation while leaving no permanent footprint. This solution provided a buffer for the planet's inhabitants to address their environmental issues without direct interference. Following the council's decision, Mark was involved in the deployment operation. He watched as the device was launched, a silent sentinel that would watch over another world, its presence a discreet nudge toward survival. After the mission, Mark spent time in the simulation chamber, a space where he could interact with various scenarios that might arise from the Council's decisions. It was a training ground for empathy and strategy, helping him and the crew understand the potential outcomes of their interventions. During one of these sessions, Mark simulated the long-term effects of the atmospheric regulator. The program projected various future scenarios, illustrating how the planet's inhabitants might adapt and evolve with the temporary reprieve from their crisis. These simulations weren't predictions but explorations of possibility, each outcome a complex tapestry woven from the threads of choice and chance. His experience in the chamber deepened Mark's appreciation for the delicate balance of interstellar aid. It wasn't merely about the technology or the power to change worlds. It was about the wisdom to know when and how to act. In the evenings, Mark would often retire to a quiet part of the ship, looking out at the stars, pondering the interconnectedness of all life across the cosmos. Each star seemed to him a beacon of possibility, each world a story of struggle and triumph, and now he was part of that grand, intricate narrative. As the ship continued its journey, Mark felt a profound alignment with his host's mission. He was no longer just a spectator or an oddity among them. He had become a participant in their highest ideals, contributing not only his genetics, but also his humanity to their galactic endeavors. In the ensuing weeks aboard the alien vessel, Mark's integration into the fabric of the interstellar community reached new depths. His role expanded beyond the genetic contributions and rescue missions. He was now involved in diplomatic dialogues and cultural exchanges that were integral to maintaining the delicate balance of peace across star systems. One afternoon, the ship approached a massive space station that served as a hub for intergalactic diplomacy. The structure was a marvel of engineering, composed of intertwining rings that rotated gracefully in the vacuum of space, each ring teeming with representatives from different civilizations. Mark was invited to attend a summit focused on creating a unified response to a series of rogue black holes threatening inhabited systems. The conference hall buzzed with languages and thoughts transmitted through various forms of communication, sonic waves, electromagnetic pulses, and complex light patterns. Mark, equipped with an advanced translation device, found himself navigating this sea of diversity with a sense of purpose. During the summit, he shared insights from Earth's own experiences with global cooperation and environmental challenges. His contributions were well received, highlighting the unique perspectives humanity could offer to the galactic community. He spoke of Earth's struggles and triumphs in fostering collaboration among diverse nations, drawing parallels to the current challenges faced by the Interstellar Assembly. The days at the summit were long and filled with negotiations and strategy sessions. Mark found himself deeply involved, often mediating between differing viewpoints, and helping to forge compromises that respected the autonomy and needs of each civilization. It was a role that required patience, empathy, and a deep understanding of both the stakes and the subtleties of intergalactic relations. As the summit concluded, a framework for cooperative action was established, with strategies to mitigate the threats posed by the black holes. Mark felt a surge of accomplishment, not just for the successful negotiations, but for the trust and respect he had earned from beings whose experiences and existences were vastly different from his own. Returning to the ship, Mark spent time reflecting on his journey. He had left Earth as a simple astronomer, a man who looked at the stars in wonder. Now, he was a part of a broader cosmos, actively participating in shaping the future of not just one planet but many. The transition had been profound, reshaping his identity and his place in the universe. In his final days aboard the ship, before returning to Earth, Mark visited the Genesis chamber once more. There he saw the thriving new life forms, a blend of his DNA and that of the aliens. The sight of these new beings who embodied the potential for unity and understanding between two worlds filled him with hope. Lyra joined him, her expression one of mixed joy and solemnity. "They will grow up knowing of you, Mark, of your world and your courage. You've helped bridge two civilizations not through conquest but through cooperation and understanding." As the ship neared Earth, the familiar blue of his home planet filled the viewport. Mark felt a pang of nostalgia mixed with a newfound resolve. He was returning with stories to tell, lessons to share, and a message of hope for humanity's place in the cosmos. The ship landed discreetly on Earth, and as Mark stepped out, the crisp air of his home world greeted him. He looked up at the stars, now familiar not as distant points of light, but as places with names and faces, stories and friendships. Mark's journey had changed him in ways he could never have imagined. He had ventured into the unknown and found not just alien worlds, but a new understanding of what it means to be human. He was ready to share this knowledge, ready to help humanity take its next steps into the vast, starlit frontier, where not only survival but also friendship and understanding awaited.